that I would present his letter to the board. And I've got a sufficient number of copies for everybody to get on record when we get going. All it says is, I got your notice about being at the hearing. I won't be there. Please consider my remarks contained in my letter of February the 5th as representing my views on the application. A copy of that letter be made available to all ladies board members. So I told her that February 5th letter was already in the file. So all he's saying is I'm not here. Look at my letter February 5th. It was already in the file. So that's it. And Mr. Ishmael, people are going to have a number of binders to pass out. It's supporting the PowerPoint presentation. Mr. Shell, I think you got a copy already, right?
Looks like I do.
All right, so there's going to be an original here marked for the record, and these 5 will be passed to the board members. And Mr. Ishmael says he wants you passed out.
Anytime, sir.
All right.
I'm going to ask you to address the board, and you want to put that on the record as well.
Yeah, I can do it. If you find me, I'll respond to specific questions. I don't have a I think what we need to do is probably, before we go on record, we probably need to analyze who's going to speak and who's not going to speak, and go to the part about the non-repetition and all that other good stuff. Before we go on record, I'll remind both council that we do operate informally. We're not strictly bound by the formal rules of evidence, meaning we do take hearsay evidence to a degree. The non-repetition rule under both the Administrative Procedure Act and the ABC laws, once a person says, you know, a certain thing, or once a certain proposition or fact is introduced, we don't need to have the same thing said by 10 different one is enough. I will say, for my part of the deal, when we have extremely thick files like this and extreme numbers of paper documents, I may call the board's attention to 1 or 2 documents that I think are important as related to the board's decision. I'm sorry, as related to the director's decision. But if there's some document or if there's some part of the file that I've not drawn the board's attention, you think that's critical or crucial, then you need to, you know, take that burden up since it's part of your case to make sure they understand the importance of that document or what it means, what it says to you. I will tell you in advance, I'm going to pass out some copies. One copy of the Act of Arkansas was adopted by the legislature in 2003, and it's about the expanded reasons why we need to apply for the right to live permit. It's all in the law book, so no surprise there. Mr. Ishmael, can you reasonably, I know there may be somebody pop up that you're unable to account for at this time, but to the extent that you can at this point, and you have stand and prepared to be sworn in when I put the machine back on, people that you reasonably expect to call in support of the applicant.
Yes, sir, I can. Mr. Scott Davis.
Please stand up.
Go ahead and stand up,
Go ahead and
Scott.
stand.
Piero Tremarchi, Sarah Tremarchi, Woody Freeman, and I don't think Betty Shaw is here. And that might be all of our witnesses. Was there anyone else? That was all, wasn't it, Scott? That's all.
Just please remain standing.
Remain standing. Mr. Shell, same deal.
I have 5, I'll say. Tommy Stacy,
Have him stand, please.
if you'll stand, when I call you, Dale Haas, Jack McCann, Floyd Johnson, and Billy Houston.
All right, Mr. Chairman, too, or perhaps obscured from your vision behind the column or behind the screen, they're right over here.
May I, before you swear us in, sir, may I please?
We're not on record yet. We need to be on record for this.
I think it'd be a good idea to be on record.
Let's go ahead and start the record.
We're on record now for the Piero's application in Jonesboro. Go ahead.
My name is Randy Ishmael. I am a lawyer. I am also a member of the nonprofit organization that is the applicant here. I will be making certain statements of fact just in the effort to try to make this concise and get it within the time available. To the extent that I'm making statements of fact, I'm willing to be sworn, and I don't mind being asked questions. Everything all the way down to attorney's summation at the end. I don't want questions and argument on that. But I leave that to the board's pleasure, however it may be. If Mr. Shell wants me to be sworn.
I'm not a member, but I'm
Well, let's just raise your right hand.
Okay.
Shall we just stand up along with us, since we're just talking about the board here. All right. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you very much. Let me, before we start here too, since we're already on record, let me make a couple of comments here, and I'm going to get something out here on the record. This is a very controversial issue, and as I said, I know there's some good folks that have come in a little earlier or a little later. We operate under the laws of the state of Arkansas. There's been a recent law change. That's why we're seeing, I think, more of these permits. Our lawyer here is going to, I'm going to ask him to explain to you and to make sure this board fully understands where we are here in a minute. Also want to say, I know this is controversial. We've had a lot of, this thing's kind of gotten out in the newspaper, as all of us know. My friend Bobby Hester over here's got to be a media star, and he's in here. Bobby always likes to...
Give me an autograph later.
That's right. That'll be fine. But there's been a lot of controversy about this. I read in the paper a couple of things that said, been a lot of letters and comments to the governor's office. I'd like to make it very clear, and I'm going to ask this board this very question because I've heard a couple of things, just sort of sidebar comments, that the governor's office was going to give us some direction on this. I've been over here about 8 years now as chairman. The governor's office has never told one of my board members to this point, never told me how to vote on a particular issue. Certainly, there's always discussions because they have an ABC liaison, but I have never received any direction on this. Have any of you board members ever received a direction on this particular issue to vote for or against this thing? Okay, I'd just like to get that out on the record for everybody's edification. So with that, I would ask you, Mr. Bennett, to explain to everybody kind of what we're going to do here and how we're going to make this decision.
Well, I'm only going to respond by citing one case in the Supreme Court and furnishing to everybody a copy of Act 1813 of 2003, which was an amendment to Act 132 of 1969. I think the thing that the board is going to hear a lot of, and certainly the board can hear this, but the issue went dry. I know it continues to devil the board, it continues to devil the agency, particularly against private clubs and dry territories. But unless I misread the law, the Arkansas Supreme Court and the gentleman that interviewed me for the newspaper, he and I discussed this case. And, you know, I told him where it was. If he wanted to look it up, he could. If he did, he did. If he didn't, but, you know, the question of whether or not a private club or a dry territory could take cash money for a drink in a county or city or township where they're voted dry, the Arkansas Supreme Court, as far as I know, settled that issue in what's known as Morris versus number 2. Morris versus Torch Club, which was decided by the Supreme Court in 1988, found in 295 Arkansas 461. As was indicated in Sunday's Democrat Gazette, there were a number of concurring opinions. There was a dissent, but the bottom line is that in a very summary fashion, and I'm talking about my summary, it'll be very short, very concise. The Arkansas Supreme Court said that Act 132, by allowing private clubs and dry territory, did not, by implication or by any other way, repeal or conflict with or try to be an amendment of initiated Act No. 1, 1942, which is the basic trial election law. A lot of people are unhappy about it, but you know, I would say that's what appears to be present case law as far as in private clubs and license in a dry territory. Of course, it sort of begs the question when we have a number of private clubs already in this particular area. The only other thing that I think the board is going to be wrestling with today is probably a new issue. And I hand to the board, and I will hand to Mr. Shell, and I will hand to Mr. Bishop, something they already have access to. There's a sufficient number of copies for the board to have a copy. Is new language that was adopted by the Arkansas General Assembly as part of its regular session work in 2003. What I want to draw to the board's attention as a legal matter, I want you to look at the first page. This is a document that was downloaded off the official website of the Arkansas Legislature Bureau of Legislative Research. This is what's known as a PDF document, a portable document file that was created by the legislature. Representative Pickett introduced House Bill 2749. It suddenly became, it did not suddenly, it subsequently became law without the governor's signature. I want to draw your attention to the first page, section 1, which is a mandatory to the definitional aspect of what is a private club. The definition of private club is found in ACA section 39202 sub 10. Mr. Fuller, as an expert in the legislature, you're familiar with the way that they do what they call markups on the bill. And if you will look at line 28 of page 1, you will see certain words underlined. And the way they do it over the ledge is when you underline something, that's new language. If it was going to be something they were going to take out, then they would have put dash marks through it, showing it was deleted language. And so I think the thing that you're going to be wrestling with today is the words community, hospitality, professional association, entertainment. I also want you to notice on page 2, beginning at line 15, something that to me as a lawyer, and of course Mr. Shell, Mr. Ishmael can give us their respective views on this sort of thing. I call it legislative findings or legislative determinations. This is pretty stout stuff law-wise, because it kind of tells you what the legislature says they have in mind when they pass these laws. You know, it's not just the law itself, it's an explanation of what we think we're doing, or what we hope we're doing, or what we say we're doing. And so beginning at line 15, we're amending Arkansas Code Annotated 3-9-221, which was in fact the buzzsaw, optic paragraph that was decided in Morris Norm 2. And the way we do that, or the way the legislature did it, is that dropping down to line 28, again, we've got all that nice underlined language, which is new language being added to the existing act. And the General Assembly recognizes that individuals do this and individuals do that, and come to the magic word restaurants. And so, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind as your attorney that restaurants are one of the things the legislature had in mind, because they used the word specific. Now, how they used it or what they did or didn't say about it, but the word restaurants does in fact appear by legislative grace and by legislative decision. So that's, other than that, if there's other issues that come up during the day, I'll certainly try to respond to them at the board's request. There may be some things that come up that I feel I need to respond to, but unless there's some other specific question, that's about it. I mean, y'all are the finders of fact. I mean, the legislature's passed this new law, and other than the interpretation that they've laid before you in Act 1813 of 2003, y'all get to interpret the act because you administer the act. I would only ask that you do so on the basis of substantial evidence, because that's going to be the test on Administrative Procedure Act appeals if there are. That's about all I can do for you, unless you got another question.
Does anybody, either one of the council, have any questions about that? I know I noticed you were going to considering appealing this in the paper. I read something in the paper that you were considering appealing the restaurant deal, but I would prefer that we don't make any comments that are going to be over in that appeal. We've got to stick to the facts in this case, if I can ask both of you to do that, I'm sure you will. So that's kind of where we're at.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to ask both of the attorneys, have y'all both read this piece of legislation?
Yes, sir, I have.
And do you understand, I mean, I know you're both lawyers and highly educated people, but do you both understand that this is the law of the land, Mr. Shell?
I think the question, Judge, is whether you understand. I'm going to present. I'm going to present.
Well, now,
No,
you know,
wait. No, let me say this.
I mean, this is not be so rude on St. Patty's Day, but,
I'm not being rude.
morning to you too.
I'm not being rude. I'm saying the question is whether you are going to interpret the law. The question for me is, I'm going to present evidence. I'm here to present evidence. This is a hearing. You are doing the hearing.
But now
you do the interpretation. So, yes, I understand the law, and I understand. Now, my understanding is a little bit different than maybe.
Which is the crux of kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and
This
it's
is
an
America, you
interpretation.
have the right. I just wanted to know that you have read this, and this gentleman here, the other, and you do understand this law was passed by the legislature.
We're dealing under. Yeah, I believe
What
you
kind
do.
of question is this?
Well, I'd like to have
I'm
Mr. Shell on record.
Yes,
Okay,
I do.
good.
Have you read it and you understand it?
Yes,
Can
sir, I
ask you
do.
that?
Now, granted, I'm not as intelligent as you because I didn't go to law school, but I have read it several times. And in my limited capacity, I have tried to understand it, Mr. Shea.
Well,
yes.
I think we've got, at least I have a good understanding of both of you have read this law. So
That's
Would
great.
you like my
with-
understanding of it, too?
I don't think so. I think
I think they're more interested in mine right now.
I think you understand. Now,
Let me say though, if I could add this, I'm not gonna be rude about it, but y'all acknowledge that the Supreme Court has not addressed, and it has not interpreted that, and you understand that's.
not the new part of the law.
Right,
That
exactly.
is correct. I sure
I
do.
do understand.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, the other part of this, before we move on, making sure, and I told the last group this, and I'll say it one more time, we're part of a process. The director heard this decision. He turned the permit down simply because there was opposition. He does that as a very common courtesy. Now, the Democrat Gazette, I want to compliment who's ever here from the Democrat Gazette. You did did you write that article, that Sunday article?
Very good.
That was a very fine article. Now, you can put that in the newspaper. That, I think it's not often you guys get accolades, but I thought that did a good job of explaining the dilemma of all of this, okay, and explaining where we're at. So my hat's off to you on what you said. With that, we're part of the process. Mr. Moore turns you down if there are objections. They come to this board. We try to hear them. We are the second step in the process. You can go from here to circuit court, and then you can go to state Supreme Court. So, and I think Mr. Shell is well aware of kind of how all this works. So with that, I would also then like to ask one more thing before we get started. Ms. Bennett, would you mind going over the things that this board has to consider in determining public convenience and advantage?
Well,
And that's what we have to vote on, folks.
all right, well, actually, I could.
I've got it.
If I could.
I'll loan you my copy.
All right, if I could, the kind of, this is really public convenience and advantage, I'm gonna say the word is public interest.
Public interest.
The touchstone for your decision, as far as what the decision is going to rest on, and Mr. Shell and Mr. Ishmael can correct me if I'm wrong, but in Arkansas Code annotated 3-9-222, which is by the law book editor's style procedure to obtain a permit, it talks about filing an application, it talks about the manager has to be a good moral character, and poster notices and all this other good stuff, and we finally get down to the bottom, we finally get down to the lick law, subparagraph F is in front, and it says, upon the director, and of course this means the board on appeal, determining that the applicant is qualified hereunder and the application is in the public interest, a permit may be issued as authorized on the second. Public interest, from our own regulation book, ABC Reg 1.21, it says in the second sentence, in determining whether any such application for a permit will promote the public convenience and advantage or interest, the director or board in the appropriate case may consider among other things relevant factors, and I don't know, it's in your regulation book, if you want me to read it, I will, but it's kind of a laundry list, and turn to it and make sure we haven't left anything out on the photocopy. There are apparently 7 things. Number of outlets in the area, type of permits in the area, suitability of the area, suitability of building, potential impact on churches and schools in the area, input from law enforcement officers and other public officials, and then opposition comments. And it talks about how the comments are supposed to be filed. So those are the basic things that you look at, and hopefully, I'm not guaranteeing this, but hopefully your testimony will more or less fall, that the testimony you receive will fall somewhere within the ambit of these seven headers. If it doesn't fall within the ambit of the 7 headers, such as legal arguments from Mr. Shell, and that's okay too, you can make his record. Mr. Ishmael can make his record, everybody can make their own record. But that's basically it. When we get down to 3-9-222 sub F is in Franklin, it just says, are you qualified or are you in the public interest? Because certainly the law recognizes that even a private club can have impact upon the public at large by its operation. So you're allowed to consider, how will this club affect me? I live next door. How will this club affect me? I have a business next door, which is something we went through in the last hearing. And y'all could probably consider the objections from the florist in the last hearing and all that other stuff, this private club will affect my flower business and it will affect my apartment tenancy. So you were allowed to do that, you're allowed to receive that. And basically, bottom line, whatever persuades you to a position, whatever substantial evidence persuades you to a position, I need you to articulate that, and then, that'll be the basis of your decision, whether or not it's anything you get qualified to be received. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bennett. The way this is going to work is the person who's asking for the permit will be allowed to go first. At that time, Mr. Shell, representing the opposition, will be allowed to question him and his witnesses. Then the opposite takes place. Then we call for a summation. I think both of you, you've been down here, Mr. Ishmael, watching them. Mr. Shell has been here with us before. And what we're going to do is ask you, please, let's keep it to non-repetitive testimony. We don't need to hear the same thing from everybody over and over. I think there will be some specific questions asked from the board about specific things in the file and about what's said. We'll question the witnesses as well. So with that, are we ready?
Yes, sir. And point of privilege, I'm going to pass out Mr. Davis's letter that simply says, I won't be here to see my previous letter.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ishmael, and balance for the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And his previous letter, of course, is in the record already.
Mr. Ishmael, being the attorney for the applicant, you get the pleasure of jumping off the diving board first here.
Thank you, sir, I think. First of all, may I say that this is my first time before this board. I've been here and watched the proceedings a couple of times, but I've never presented anything to this board. I have no experience in administrative agency practice. And so, first of all, if I say Your Honor instead of Mr. Director or Mr. Chairman, I certainly hope you'll forgive me. I mean no disrespect.
Based on the name some people call us, that's a blessing.
Okay. Anyway, I have, in preparation for this, in addition to studying this case and trying to prepare for it, I've read the ABC Act, I've read the Administration of Secrets Act, the Non-Profit Corporation Act, I've read the regulations that apply here. I've read the files in the back room, and I've gone through some appeal court transcripts, all looking for what looks like it might be relevant to this board in making a decision, looking for consistency and fairness of the various things that I've heard mentioned here and seen in the transcripts. We're going to have a video presentation, and those books are the walk through with it, so it'll be easier.
All right, we don't have any books.
I'll give it to you right now. Mr. Shell has a book. And I've got the original over here for the record copy.
The presentation will follow the sequence in the book. There will be some things in the presentation that are not in the book, and there will be some things in the book that are not in the video presentation. So I ask you to be patient with me if some of this is a little bit awkward, and we did the best we could. Mr. Scott Davis knows about PowerPoint and presentations, but he had to rely on me to physically put that book together, and so I apologize to all present about that. My understanding is, and I offer this in evidence now, and Mr. Bennett, you may mark it however you choose, whatever you think will be appropriate. You have the original, to the extent that there are original documents there in that original marked binder. All of the others are copies.
Please permit this gigantic list of support here. Is this in the book as well?
That is not in the book.
Are there copies of that?
That was in the file. That was filed.
That was in the file. You've seen this support.
You may not have seen it since it was filed today.
I filed that this morning, sir.
Then you may not have seen it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can see it.
The reason I did it in that fashion, quite candidly, it is a petition in a petition format. There's well over 1,000 signatures there, and I will speak a little more about that later. I just didn't want to make 7 copies of it, and I didn't want to go out and have to get a 2-inch binder for the stuff. So that's why I did it in that manner.
I'm sure the trees of Arkansas appreciate that.
I think the trees have already suffered. Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll pass this down, and I'm gonna pass this on over to, because it just showed up here along with the file. But if you have not seen it, we'll certainly let you take a look at this. But you represent this to be 1,000 signatures of people from Jonesboro?
Yes, sir,
who are for
a
this.
thousand or more, yes.
All right. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt.
While we're at that, while we're on that, if I may, let me point out that the top of this, the document that they have signed, says, "We residents of Jonesboro, Arkansas, or Craig County support Artistic Food Design Ltd. And Piero's in their application for a private club permit at the address. It will be an asset for the downtown revitalization and the community as a whole. This is a small, locally owned and operated restaurant, not a bar, with an excellent reputation. The person taking my signature or his designee may speak with me at any ABC hearing regarding the Piero's application." They're stating the reason there, saying we may speak for them, and the signature of the person who took the signatures is there. We know how this was done. This is not an anonymous petition sort of thing stuck in front of somebody for any kind of reason.
Well, since we brought these up, and when we see, I know we've got a number of people who are opposed to this as well, because I've reviewed the file. How were these gathered? Would you tell me that? How did you go about gathering these? How did these people go?
Part of them, and in fact I will let Sarah Tamarki tell you more about it, but I know personally that part of them were people coming into the restaurant saying, "How can I help?" Say, "We have this you can sign if you want to do that, or you may write a letter." Some of them where we got our members to go out and solicit people that they knew. Part of them, Marco Tamarki and his friends went out and did. We did not hire any of this done. This was not a go out and get signatures for pay. It was not that kind of a canvas at all. And I will let Ms. Tamarki tell you more about that.
Yeah, well, we're kind of getting you off your presentation here. I'm sorry, but we'll come back to that. So why don't you just go on with your presentation?
Very good, thank you.
Anybody want to look at
I'll
this?
tell you what I'm gonna do about marking this is exhibit. Of course, Mr. Shell hasn't seen this, so I'm gonna mark this entire book collectively as evidence one. And if you have any specific objections as he goes through them, then you can raise them. But I'm just gonna mark it for identification and as evidence one. Okay?
I do have one objection, but I'll raise it.
I would like to give that objection now, if the board please, because I am offering that exhibit at this time.
Go ahead, Ms. Shea.
It has to do with the membership list. It has changed substantially from what was filed.
Very good, we will certainly give him
we-
plenty of opportunity to discuss
Right,
it.
and we see, as I think you were here before one time, a lot of times membership lists start in a very, people keep adding to them.
Oh, it's not an objection specifically with respect to the added number.
Oh.
I would assume they probably would add numbers.
All right.
But the numbering system has changed.
I see. Okay, well, let's bring that up a little bit later.
Okay, that'll be fine. I'll just make that.
Is that under tab 2?
I
Yes,
just
it is.
glanced through it and
Is that under tab 2?
Yes, it is under tab 2.
yes.
Mr. Chairman, if you will permit me, let me go ahead and address not just that singular point, but a broader issue on this. There are features of the regulation that are required for licensees. After you get the permit, in order to operate under the permit, you must do certain things. You must have a membership card. You must have a bound membership book. You must have members serially numbered and all that. There are various things like that that are required for licensees. In fact, Mr. Bennett has had to explain that to people here before, that some of these things are not required at the application level. The reason for that is if you're not operating with a permit, there's no reason for a nonprofit corporation to have those rules. So they come into play only after the permit is issued, and then you're required to operate under those rules. Did I say that correctly, Mr. Bennett?
I think that's a fair summation. I mean, I think the board can take judicial notice. There are literally thousands of nonprofit corporations in the state. And I can think think of nothing under the 91 or 93 nonprofit corporation law that created mutual benefit, public benefit, religious benefit. Nothing in there that says that you have to have members. Under the new nonprofit corporation act, you can have members or not have members. And there's certainly nothing in the new nonprofit corporation that says, oh, by the way, you have to operate under ABC rules and regulations. So I mean, I would love to have the money the American Red Cross brings in every day, but I doubt that they ever intend to apply for a private club permit. So, no, obviously these rules don't apply to all nonprofit corporations. Once you apply for the permit and get the permit, then you become a private club. Our regulations even recognize, while we're talking about members, our regulations in two different places recognizes that there are charter members and then there's members after the fact. ABC Reg 5.21 says all members, comma, other than charter members. So there's got to be a reason the word charter members is used in the regulation. And by the way, this is all up to the board, because all the statute says you got to have 100 members. It doesn't say anything in the statute, never has, as far as I know, about charter or non-charter members. And then under 515.1, 515.1 talks about name, age, and residence of each charter member. And of course, it has some obsolete language in there about who's paid dues. Of course, the legislature doesn't require dues payment anymore. That's another 2003 act that I didn't even bring today. But I think it's fair. I would say it's a fairly common sense deal that not every nonprofit corporation has to abide by these rules unless they get a permit.
I will interject there that opinions may differ, interpretations may differ on that. I'll probably introduce quite a bit of evidence to the contrary, but obviously that is for your interpretation.
One of our witnesses, Mr. Chairman, will address what we have done and what we intend to do if the permit is granted.
Okay, I'd like to kind of get back on the horse here, and let's find out what this place is all about.
Very good. Would you permit me to would the people who are supporting the application please stand up? Thank you very much. Bill, I see you made it. Judge, thank you for being here. Some of them will be introduced later by Mr. Martin. May we close this blind? I think it would be a lot better.
Yes, please do so. Thank you.
Hang on a minute, we got to change the date. We don't, something's wrong. Okay, we appear to be back on record. Listen to that. Randy, say your name, please.
Randy,
okay, works. Okay, go ahead.
In just a second, we're passing the file down at the end of, after Ms. Covey looks at it, I'll give you the file so you can look at anything you didn't look at already. When was the last time you were up here?
I was here last week.
Okay, well, there's probably some stuff in it since then you need to look at. We'll send it over to you.
My understanding is that the application becomes a part of the record and it's not necessary to offer it into evidence. Is that correct, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir, part of the file.
Okay. So let's hope that it's not necessary to send something on appeal, but if so, I do want to be sure that that is there because there are things that I did not waste trees on in the book.
Well, no, the application was what the director made a decision on, so it's certainly part of the file.
It's part of the record.
Very good. I would like to also say that we are proceeding on the basis that we have met the technical requirements for a sufficient application at its inception on the page.
Subject to, Mr. Shell's comments, yes.
Of course, I understand that. But administratively, I think that we are entitled to rely on that, and I have not attempted to supplement that application data in order to put it before the board because we had the administrative acceptance of it. Okay. We'll begin now, if you're ready, Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis will be making some comments here, and I might be making some comments.
Mr. Davis, identify himself, tell us who he is,
Oh,
what
yes,
his part in this is.
Actually, let's go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and read something about him. On this initial one, he is going to be operating the machine and maybe making some comments. There will be another section of the presentation that he will just do it. Scott Davis is a native of Memphis, moved to Jonesboro over 5 years ago. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Memphis. He also holds a master's degree in urban management and planning from the University of Memphis and a master's in business administration from Christian Brothers University. He has experience working in urban development, having worked for the City of Memphis for over 5 years in finance and planning, parks and recreation, and the Office of Drug Policy. He is currently the Chief Operating Officer of a large employer in Jonesboro. He is also a member of Artistic Food Design Ltd. And a supporter of downtown development. Is that correct, Scott?
That's good.
Okay. With that, let's start the presentation here, and I'll make the comments and call on you when we need to, okay? This map shows the board's map of the state of Arkansas. That's Craighead County right up there. I'm shaking a little bit. I'm nervous, I guess. Obviously, it is a dry county. We are applying for a permit under the law of the state of Arkansas that provides for private club permits to serve alcoholic beverages in a dry county. That's what we are doing here. This is the city of Jonesboro. Inside the outline of the county, it shows all of the smaller towns. Obviously, Jonesboro somewhat dominates this map. Right down here, no, I'll wait till the next map. Go ahead. On this map here, we see where the highways are, where they go in and out. Highway 63 right there goes left over to Walnut Ridge. It goes north around, connects with Highway 49 that goes to Piero, which is a wet county, and where people go to eat and drink. Highway 1 at the bottom goes south to Poinsett County, where people go to eat and drink. Poinsett County is wet. Highway 1B also does that, and Highway 49 also goes, actually, I'm not sure about that, but one of those takes us down to Josie's. Another one takes at Waldenburg. Another one takes us, as I measured it, approximately 3.5 miles from the city limits to the county line and the first liquor store. So it's not far for people from Jonesboro to go to a liquor store. We're not trying to make Jonesboro wet. We can get liquor stores to them real easy. Next map. This is a list of all of the private club permits in Craighead County. This is by date issued, and there's a reason to put it in there by date issued. We're going to refer to all of that.
I believe your county has 11. Is it? It's 12 or 12?
Well, there's 12.
It's now 12.
There's 12. The one that is in Brooklyn, which is not in the city, is not in Jonesboro, is inactive at this time. And I'm going to present something to you on that in just a moment. Your book contains a certified list, certified by personnel, and I think by the director, that this really is all of them. We have just merely rearranged them here by date for easy reference. While we are at that, and this is a little bit of an aside, but I want to present this at this time. The Brooklyn Country Club Caddy Shack is inactive. I would like to offer into evidence the director's certified application for inactive status and the granted inactive status, not just to show that it is inactive, but also with this application is the managing agent's statement that he intends to reopen that at the same location, either by rebuilding or in another building at the same location. I mention that because there's a lot of rumors floating around that he intended to move it to downtown Jonesboro, and he was going to do it as soon as Piero's got their license, and he was going to be the first one in the floodgate. Not so, and it's on record that he's going to stay in Brooklyn. And that's why I'd like to introduce.
We have to consider these one at a time.
That's
one at a time.
At this time, although it may, I really am trying to hurry, I would like to offer something on the population of Jonesboro. We have up there the number of private clubs. This is information that came to us from the U.S. Census Bureau via Jonesboro Chamber of Commerce. It has an estimate of today's population of Jonesboro at 60,000, which is almost double what it was in 1980. And I'm not going to try to give you any kind of ratio. I don't think it is necessary, but just to give you an idea of the population growth, this board has made it clear that it's not going to promise to not issue any more permits in Craighead County. It's also made it clear that everything is on an individual basis, and counties may be different. We understand all of that. We give you this population information just to let you see that there is indeed plenty of room here for more private club permits in Craighead County. And the last one that was issued in Craighead County was the Sage Meadows, and in that one the board's decision contained a statement that Craighead County was not saturated with private club permits.
On those permits, I know you got golf courses, and then you got fraternal organizations.
We're going to go through them one by one, but I'll address your question now if you like, sir.
Is there any in there that's just especially for the restaurant?
No, sir. Not a one. Not a one. Let's go through them one by one. May we?
Before we get carried away, Randy, I've got your Yahoo and marking it as exhibit number 3, but there was something attached to the back of it that you didn't mention. I don't know if it was part of it.
Okay, let me see. I may have given you something secret.
Yeah, this is secret stuff.
Okay, well it is. As a matter of fact, this is a exhibit I pulled out of the Sage Meadows file to confirm that 31,530 figure for 1980. And it was an exhibit in the Sage Meadows file, and I thought that gave it plenty of credibility, but I didn't offer it, so thanks for giving it back.
Okay.
This is number 3.
Yes, the Yahoo deal is number 3.
Okay.
The book itself, of course, the big book is number 1, and then this deal is number 2.
Right.
And then the Yahoo is number 3.
Very good. You know, while I'm at and talking about the saturation, the records here, and just the other day, I happened to be speaking with Mr. Bennett. We were looking at his screen because I went in and asked him for some information. I believe there's 67 permits in Benton County, which is dry, and I think the population there is something over 160,000, roughly double what it is in Craighead County. Just for reference. Let's go to the first one. Okay. This is a map that shows each one of these by number that you'll be able to follow along if you want to. Let's go to number 1, Scott. This is VFW. You can see it is issued March 27, 1969. As will be on the top of each one of these slides. It's obviously a patriotic fraternal organization. It is remote from the city. Let's go back to the map, may we? And you see that it's up there in the right-hand corner. See number 1 up there? You see number 1, 2, 4, 10, and 12 are up there, which is a long way from downtown, which is, gosh, I'm not sure. Where are we? In here somewhere? Right there? Okay. Okay, number 2. Yes, sir.
I'm not going to dispute any of these exist or whether, just in an effort to move along, I'm not going to
Well,
dispute that they're.
I'll get him to move along when here in a minute. It's kind of helpful to us to see that.
That's fine.
Thank
I'm
you.
not going to
And I
argue.
hope
Okay. This is number 2, Loyal Order of Moose. It's another fraternal benefit organization. It is also remote, long way out, still at the same corner. Go to number 3.
just sort of abbreviate these as we go. We got one board member that like to be out here around 3, I believe. And,
Oh, I hope
but we
so.
want, well, listen, I know these things get in depth, so and we want to give everybody as much time as they need, but try to be brief on things as you can.
I will. Fraternal Order of Eagles, same thing. It's still out in the same neighborhood, out on Airport Road. It's obviously another fraternal benefit organization. Number 4, Jonesboro Country Club in 1969. It is a country club. It is golf. By the way, Scott, do you know what their dues are?
It's about $285 a month.
$285 a month?
$3,000 initiation fee.
How much initiation?
About $2,000 to $3,000.
Okay, thank you. Next number. Ridge Point Country Club, a note of explanation on this. It says July 1, 1975. This is the nonprofit organization that was the Knights of Columbus. The Knights of Columbus, I don't know if they became inactive or whatever it was. Anyway, they redid the charter, changed the name, Ridge Point Country Club, which was open sometime in the late 80s or 90s, I'm not quite sure. But obviously another country club. Scott, do you know what the dues are there?
About the same, about $250.
About $250 a month? Okay, thank you. I understand now that the initiation's not that high.
There's no initiation. Right?
Okay, they're trying to get members. Okay. Next one is the Mallard Club. This is at the Holiday Inn in Jonesboro. And it is a lounge, just like you would expect in any Holiday Inn or a hotel. They do have a small restaurant that, frankly, I never see anybody there. But it is a lounge. They have a dance floor, they have a band. Not all the time, of course, but it is a lounge, not a restaurant. Next one. Jubilation. This Jubilation has a application pending for transfer. In fact, the director might have acted on that day before yesterday. This is their old location. They have not been there for some time, you know, I'm not sure, a month or 2 months or whatever it may be. It's in there just to let you know that we know what we're talking about and so we don't leave it blank. Next one. 501 Club, almost across the street from Jubilation. It's the same owner. Porter Hurt is the managing agent. I think his brother Bill Hurt is probably basically the owner of these. The 501 Club, I have a little testimony about it later of what it is. But I've been there. It is a restaurant with a big bar. The bar dominates the dining area. It is smoky, it is noisy, and all that compared to just a small restaurant. And it turns into a nightclub at about 9 o'clock and stays open. I think it's a Class A and goes until 2 in the morning. I'm not sure, but nevertheless, it is more a nightclub than it is a restaurant. Next one, please. Envision. You granted this one in 1996 to Reginald Prunty. He is a black man, and part of the presentation was that there was no place for blacks to go. And part of his notion was, and I know Mr. Prunty. He worked on the Xerox machine in my office, worked on the Xerox machine in my wife's office. I see him, I visit with him, I consider him a friend. And anyway, I would like to comment now that in the hearing on his, Senator Bookout was here and said he will never make it. He can never make it with something like this. There will be violations. I read the transcript. There will be violations. Not even a Rockefeller could do it. He is on this certified list. He is still operating, and I also have here, I'm not sure I have it right here, but I'll give it to you before we end, a certified statement from Enforcement Division that he has had no violations. You should be proud of your decision with Mr. Prunty. You took a chance on it. Next one. Sage Meadows Golf Club. This was the last one. This is the one where I mentioned a while ago that the board decision said it's not has not reached saturation in Craighead County. We can talk about this some more later, but this is another real estate development country club with golf. Do we know what the dues are there, Scott?
I just wrote that check for $150.
Okay, that's right. You live out there, don't you? Is that $150 a month?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next. Benevolent Protective Order of the Belt. You can tell it's in kind of a remote area. Frankly, the area is becoming much less remote. It was granted in 1969. We didn't show it with the first one because I wanted to mention to you. In 1966, when I started practicing law in Jonesboro, the Elks Club was downtown. It moved out, way out south of town to where Outback is now, which at that time was remote. It all gathered in, they sold out, they went kind of inactive for a time, and now they've moved to another place that is remote. Next step. This is where the Elks Club was. This is where Outback is. Outback said they wouldn't come without a liquor license. They did come. Chili's did not. Look over to the left over here. See that church steeple? It's right there on the parking lot where Outback is. That's the church that was objecting because they were right there next door to Outback. Go to the next one, Scott, please. See this houses here? See the fence? That's Outback right there. Dense residential area across a fence from the location. Those people were objecting. Let's go back one, Scott, and see if we can see that intersection. See the intersection here? That's only a part of it. But this is a side street where the busy intersection where Chief Johnson was talking about it, other people were talking about it. It was fairly new at the time. They were having lots of accidents. It was a dangerous intersection. It was a legitimate complaint. Next.
Before we get carried away, the photograph here and the photograph on the PowerPoint, the church steeple photograph,
Yes.
not the same.
Well, I'm not sure I can explain that.
Yeah, those are just different pictures. It's the same same shot.
It's the same scene, isn't it?
But it doesn't show the intersection that's shown on this
Oh,
one.
it doesn't?
I don't know if it's not.
We've got one of those in our book, though, or whatever
do?
you've got. Yeah, it's here.
Okay.
It's right
Okay,
here.
it's further on.
No, it's
Randy,
not.
I think we've got a pretty good concept of what you got out here now, so let's.
We're ready to go on.
Line this on. the-
Okay, very good. Let's go back to that map, please. Is this the one where we're showing, is this one where we're showing where things are located? Okay, in the book here, let's go on over to that. The next map you see over there, first of all, you see, we're going to the location of our present applicant, okay? And then next is a map, and that is not exactly the same, but you can see it is roughly the same map. See the star in the middle? That's the location of the applicant. The star in the middle on the one in your book is the location of the applicant. You will see a colored kind of red circle over on the left there. Not on your map, sir. Yes, there. That is the police station, 2 blocks away. The circle black is the fire station, 2 blocks away. Go on down, you'll see 2 squares. Those are the nearest churches. I think probably a quarter of a mile away or something like that. Go over to your right, and you'll see a church and a school. Those are, I think, maybe 3/10 of a mile away, or they're about the same distance. The one on your right is in the school is Blessed Sacrament, a Catholic church and school. The one on your left there, the one that is nearest to the site, is First Baptist Church, and the next one there, I think, is probably First Methodist. I'm not sure. Anyway, lots of churches in that neighborhood going on south, farther away from there. But this is to show you the nearest church and school. That's all, and the closeness. This hits the remoteness issue. Next, this is the outside of our location. Next, and while we're at it, let's go back to the one previous. And there you see the crosswalk in front of that. That's, I don't know if they meant for it to be, but those are all up and down Main Street, and they're kind of mini speed bumps. Now let's go on over to the Peters Associates. Okay, Peters and Associates is an engineering firm that's worked with the Metropolitan Area Transportation Authority in Jonesboro. We asked them to come in and do a study for us and tell us if this was a dangerous thing or what. And if you've had a chance to read it, you will see that, first of all, let's go to about right in here. If you look in there, you will see where it says low volume, low speed vehicular circulation within the downtown area, not considered a major street to carry through traffic. Can you see it there? And going down, it has features including traffic calming, in there. And it is pedestrian friendly. And let's go on over, and it's mentioned there are trees and shrubs and stuff and lighting and what have you. Just go to the second page, Scott. And somewhere about right in there, it says, this category is called quality restaurant. It is characterized as a quality full-service eating establishment not serving breakfast. That's exactly what we are. We do not serve breakfast. Okay, then let's go to the last one, which is the most important. The data is attached. These values, actually, someplace up there, it does not constitute, it is not high traffic now, it does not constitute a hazard. It's all in there. Anyway, it is a professional engineer's report that traffic is not a feature here.
Randy, let me hold you up here just a minute. Technical. Mr. Sheldon, you have my exhibit back. I've got the file back in my hands.
Not through the district.
Okay. Can we? I need to get it back in my file here pretty quick. It's not leaving the room, is it?
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me mention at this time that the original exhibit over there contains the Peters and Associates engineer's letter. All of the data that they took with their traffic count is available if you want it. I just didn't put it in the file, but if Mr. Shell wants it, he's certainly welcome to it. Okay, I think that takes care of that part, doesn't it, Scott? Does that get us to Piero?
It does.
Piero, would you like to come up here?
That has Scott's name, because he's made some remarks on that. He knows his name.
Yes, Scott Davis.
Scott Davis.
Mr. Piero, we'll ask you to speak up too, because this gets recorded. So if you'll just give us your name and course, your relationship to the permit.
Yes, my name is Piero.
Sit down, please.
I live in Jonesboro. I lived in Jonesboro for 26 years, except for a short time that we were in California. Excuse me, what?
Did someone ask a
Just
question?
give it, all you'd have, no, nobody asked a question. We just want your name and your relationships, and we got that in the file, so we're good. Go ahead.
I am one of the investors in Piero restaurants on Main Street, Jonesboro, and I am the one that applied for a private liquor license.
Piero, tell us if you will how this came about. And well, first of all, you have other investors in this. You're not the sole
Yes.
owner. Is that correct?
Yes, we had a restaurant for 10 years on Union, and a couple of times we thought about applying for a liquor license, and then we decided not to. And then we kept it open for 10 years, and then after 10 years, we're constantly trying to make ends meet because we couldn't get rich on it. We closed the restaurant, sold the building, bought another building on Main Street. I'm an artist, and my wife is also an artist. She's a photographer, I'm a painter. We're both highly involved with the arts of all forms and shapes. And we bought a building, put a studio upstairs, and used it downstairs as storage. But every time I went in, I kept looking that would make a nice restaurant. And it was still in the back of my mind. Every time friends came by to the gallery, would say, God, I wish you open a restaurant. We miss your food, blah, blah. So one day I got together with another 3 or 4 people. I said, okay, this is what it will cost to do it. This is what I want to do. Let's do it. And we did it. We opened a restaurant. And it's a very small, very elegant restaurant. It has an open kitchen. It has what's called an exhibition kitchen. This was the first restaurant. This is the one we're in now.
Let's go back to the other one. That's the restaurant that you had before, right?
That's
Okay.
where we used to be.
Now let's go to the inside of this.
This is the new restaurant. As you can see, there's an exhibition kitchen. We have chefs working in there. My son, Marco Tamarki, is the chef to see. And stand up, Marco.
Stand up.
Kevin Province, it's sous chefs, and then Clay is the assistant sous chef. Then there's me, and an intern from high school that goes to the Voltaire school and wants to become a chef. This is our kitchen. And we cook everything to order. We have a basic menu for people that are not very daring into something unusual, but we have a lot of specials that are created by us in the kitchen on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and that's what we love to do. That's what we like to do. I'm from Italy. I've been here 30 years. I'm an American citizen, and my background and my cooking needs a glass of wine. It doesn't complete the whole concept without a glass of wine.
This is a 65 to 75 seat restaurant, I
Right.
believe that was the
We have a 65 tabletop, and then we have 11 tables by the kitchen that you can watch. You can eat there at the counter and watch the chef cook.
And the proposed hour, go ahead and get this out on the table here.
We're
The proposed hours of operation.
We're open from 11 to 2 for lunch, Monday through Saturday, and from 6 to 10 at night, Monday through Saturday. We're closed on Sunday.
You close at 10 o'clock. Okay. Go ahead.
I have been, as you can see in my file, I have been very strong involved into nonprofits. I started nonprofits in the 70s. It was called.
Hang on a minute.
Hey,
Go ahead, Mr. Marshall, you said you were very strong in the nonprofits. Please continue.
I started a nonprofit in the 70s. It was called Visual Arts Incorporated. The purpose of that Visual Arts Incorporated was to support students at the university and with scholarship, purchase art, and start a collection for the city of Jonesboro. And it didn't have a long-range support. We have a short-range support, not a long-range support. I've been a member of Rotary Club for many years, and we have one piece of art in Jonesboro, and the Rotary Club, through my assistant, put that piece of sculpture in Jonesboro. I started the Friends of the Forum, which was another nonprofit that raised money for the theater that we have downtown in Jonesboro, that we had the option of tearing down or remodeling and fixing up, and with the help of other people in town. We put it together and saved it, and it's there now, and it's 700 people, and it's an accepted art.
Piero, what about the menu? You gonna change anything right away?
We are not planning on changing anything. Well, I mean, our menu, it's just fine the way it is. You know, we have we have the best of everything that we could find from across the country. We import a lot of stuff from Italy, from France, and from California, from Alaska, from all our fish come from the Northwest. We are a highly specialized restaurant.
Do you have any intention of putting in a bar?
Oh, Lord, no. There's no, I mean, the kind of restaurant that we are, a bar, it's irrelevant. We don't have room to just hang around there and drink, especially because in proportion to the price of the food, that will almost be prohibited for people to hang around.
Do you permit smoking in the restaurant?
No, it's not a smoking restaurant.
How do you plan on handling alcohol beverages if you get the permit?
Well, in the beginning, I will be the sommelier. I will be the one that will go to the table and suggest wine or recommend wine. We will have wine by the glass, and we will have wine by the bottle. Excuse me. I have a pretty good education on wine. I don't have an education in the selling part of it because I don't sell wine. But I know what I grew up in a country where wine is served every meal, at lunch and dinner, so I'm familiar with how to handle it, what needs to be done with it, and I'm constantly educating myself on all other forms. I'm now a big beer drinker, except in the middle of the hot summer. But, so I have a lot to educate myself in there. I have a lot to educate myself in other form, and that's right now I will have total control of the liquor in the restaurant.
Do you have in mind to immediately begin serving cocktails?
No, I mean, I don't have we don't have anything, we're not prepared for this. We did not go out, I mean, theoretically.
So you were asking for beer and wine only at this time?
No, sir.
No.
You're asking for cocktails.
Yeah, but it's really not the cocktail as much. Again, we're going back to the kind of food